Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's Better Way Thursday workshop. We're excited to have you here. I am here with my friend, Misti Williams Valente, who is with Spherion, which is a staffing agency. She's a recruiter. She works with helping find people for great jobs and finding great roles for great people. And I asked her to come talk to us today because we are in, as some of you might have noticed, a little bit of a tricky job market. Not just a little bit, a mega tricky job market. And so Misti and I were chatting a little bit, and she's like, I've got some ideas that I'd love to share in terms of navigating a tough market, understanding best practices, and knowing that maybe the way that you've done it in the past, the last time you were looking for a job, is not necessarily the right way that we want to go right now. So, Misti, I'm super grateful for you coming on today and having this conversation with us. And I'm just going to turn over to you to introduce yourself and then to share some ideas with us. So thank you.
Thanks for having me, Robin. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, world, viewers, to all the viewers. Thanks for joining us here today. Yes, Robin, it's a tricky market. I talk to people every single day who are struggling, and they keep sending their resume online, and they're like, I'm not getting a response. And there's a lot of nuances to break down here. And so we did create some slides to kind of help us pathway into some of these conversations. But really, we want to talk a lot about like the mindset, right? The traditional job search, customization, and really digging into like customizing our resume based on keyword searchability. And I always say quality over quality over quantity is better. We also want to talk about like our tools. Are tools updated effectively? Is LinkedIn updated? Because we want to talk about a little bit more about casting a wider net. Linear searching, when I am searching online, is one pathway, one channel, if you will, in the ecosystem. But what we want to do is expand that ecosystem, and we want to work with recruiting firms, and we want to work with LinkedIn to where recruiters are coming to us, trying to help us find jobs. So it really is about, to me, casting a wider net and optimizing a job search. And then we want to talk about our network, because network is really where it happens, and continuing to network. Even despite us being on a job search, people often, when they are job searching, they stop networking. And that is the time to actually accelerate and boost your networking activity so that you're in the right place at the right time with the right people, that could potentially lead to a pathway. And I want to talk about personal and professional networks too. So Robin, if you don't mind sharing our slides, we'll start digging into the content.
Awesome. Are you going to introduce yourself as part of your slides? Like, is that
I
a slide?
I can introduce myself. I
I
guess
want
I
you to. Yeah.
started there. Thank you. Yeah. So I am Misti Williams Valente, like Robin said, and I do work for Spherion Staffing. We're owned by Ronstad, the largest staffing agency globally. And I've been doing this for about 15 years, 13 years with Spherion. I'm coming up on my anniversary in July, which is bananas. But every single day I get to help people find amazing jobs. And something I'm really passionate about is career pathing versus having a job, right? It's opportunities to find great leadership and great careers that can help us expand as individuals, both personally and professionally. So I really love what I do. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much. All right. And we're sharing. Hopefully you can see your slides, and just let me know when you want me to advance these.
Yep, go ahead and go to the next one. So traditional job search strategies really aren't working, and why? It's really multifaceted. When you submit an online application, your application goes into an applicant tracking tool. And that applicant tracking tool is bogged down right now. There's a lot of people who are displaced in various industries. There are a lot of people who are actively looking. There are people who are trying to cross industry, cross role, applying for every job that they can. I think I talk to hiring managers every single day that are getting anywhere from 300 to 1,500 applicants per posting. That's a lot of applicants. So imagine an applicant tracking tool is a tool that captures the resume. However, a recruiting team or an HR team or a hiring manager still has to go into that tool and find the applicants, right? And they're trying to pull as many keyword searchability that mesh into the job description as possible that will produce an outcome of the resume, the best match possible. So think about it from a recruiting perspective. I'm going to put on my recruiting hat and say, okay, I go through 100 applicants and I find one or two applicants that are relevant to the job and who are going to be a good fit for my position, potentially on paper. And then I'm going to interview those candidates. And let's say I interview, 2 to 4 people. I usually find my candidate in 100 to 200 resumes. So what does that mean for 201 to 1500? You're going to get the red button letter, right? Of we are sorry, but the job is effectively closed down right now, which is so discouraging for candidates who are actively applying for jobs online and not seeing a return on their activity. So today we're going to talk, I want to start with mindset. We're going to talk about networking and volunteering. We're going to talk about tracking our activity, ROI activities. What are those? LinkedIn, and then job search tools, leveraging agency partners to cast a wider net, which is very underutilized and free. So let's go to the next slide, Robin. So we're going to talk about mindset. The reason why I talk about this and the reason why I think it's really important is because there are a lot of people right now who are struggling in the job search. It is taking a mental toll. And I talk with people every day who are like, I'm going to go take a vacation to Bali for a year and take a year off. And there's people who have been laid off, right? Or there's people who are like, I'm going to lose my house, my kids, my car, my wife. Like, it's not okay. I'm not financially okay. I'm not emotionally okay. And so I like to start off by talking about mindset and how we mentally prepare and fortify ourselves to be able to endure the most challenging market I have ever seen in the history of staffing and recruiting. In the history of the workforce, I have not seen a more challenging set of conditions. There's a lot of nuances that are playing into that right now. We have a lot of rifts and layoffs happening. We also have a lot of, political movements, which are making the market pretty unpredictable and volatile, tariff conversations, hiring freezes. And also there's a lot of postings online that aren't actual openings. And we'll talk about that more in a little bit, but there's a lot of moving pieces. So we have to really plan and prepare and do activities that are going to pay an ROI. So I like to say map it. If you're a planner, if you're a time management person, you've got to sit down and think about your strategy and how you're going to leverage every single day and utilize your time well. When you get in the job search, whether you're searching if you're actively employed and looking for a new, better opportunity, if you're underemployed and looking for a new, better opportunity, or if you're unemployed looking for an opportunity, it's really important to map out your time and plan it. You have to have framework that you're going to work into, just like you would a job. So mapping and planning are important. And another thing is, like, if you get on LinkedIn, we all can spend so much time on LinkedIn going down a rabbit hole, just like any social media, can take you. I would say spend like time on there, but plan your time on there so that you don't spend extra time going down rabbit holes. But I do want you to plan time for LinkedIn. I want you to plan time for updating your tools, modifying your tools, making your tools relevant to the verbiage that the company is requiring, the industry verbiage, or even the company verbiage can change slightly with industry. And having a little fluidity, I think, is equally as important. It's not like a rigid timeline, but like I tell people, wake up in the morning when you're really agile and like very focused, do a meditation, get your head in the right place, map out your day of what that's going to look like. I like to do this the day before and then execute the day of. You can do it however it works for you. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. It's what works for you and your own time management, but it's got to be planned and executed. So I like to say, I'm going to get up, do a meditation. I'm going to have a workout, move my body. I'm going to work in like hard, undisrupted time for 2 to 3 hours straight. And then I'm going to go move my body, right? I'm going to have some fluidity there. I'm going to have some exercise, move my body. Why is this important? Because the market conditions are volatile and people take it personally. When you've submitted, I've heard people submit, 100, 200, 300 resumes to their resume to 300 jobs and they keep getting rejection, guess what that starts doing to your mental health? It starts taking an absolute toll on your very core of who you are. It makes you feel inadequate. What's wrong with me? Some people are telling me I feel too old. Maybe it's ageism, or maybe I'm not marketable or relevant anymore. And I'm like, no, 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 it's not it. So what I want to prepare you for in your mindset is truly knowing the market is challenging and it's not a personal thing. But you have to have a plan and you have to work your plan. And if your plan is applying to jobs every single day, all day, it's not probably going to pay the dividend that you are looking for, which is to land a job. So if you go to the next slide, Robin. Networking and volunteering, we talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but networking and volunteering, I think, are important. Networking, for one, is still attending like SHRM events, or if you're in an industry, if you're in manufacturing, or if you're in IT, attending Silicon Slopes events. They're all a la carte. You can pay per event. If you're in manufacturing, you want to be attending Utah Manufacturing Association events. There's companies there, there's leaders, decisions are being made at those events, but you want to stay engaged. You want to stay in the personal and the professional arena as you're job searching. And again, this is relevant for a job seeker who is gainfully employed or a job seeker who's looking to, get new employment. So networking is critical. And I want you to think about your personal and professional network. And sometimes we don't think about this. And I'll use this example. I had a hairdresser who did my hair for a really long time, and she was amazing. And she knew everybody in the state of Utah. And she was one of my greatest friends. And she didn't fully know what I did for a living. Until I clearly communicated to her what I did for a living, she started plugging me into people. And all of these, once she found out what I did for a living, she started networking me and plugging me in and making connections for me. So I'm even suggesting your personal network, your family, your friends, telling them that you are actively looking for a job. And sometimes that's personal and vulnerable. That can be challenging, especially if we've been laid off or, circumstances happened outside of our control. That can feel very vulnerable to us. But making sure you are letting your people, your inner circle, your secondary circle, and your more expansive professional network know you're on the market. Like, you're looking for your next opportunity and being actively networking in various industry, community engagements. And also, you can meet somebody at a barbecue. I've done sales. I'm on the business development side of Spherion. I don't ever stop working. I am an advocate and a champion for what I do, and I believe in it. So I'm constantly at a barbecue, and summer talking about what I love. You're selling yourself. So talk about what your needs are and be vocal about asking, do you have anybody that I can be introduced to, or are you willing to make an introduction? Super critical. Volunteering, I think, is really important. If you are currently riffed or laid off, I think volunteering is such a great way to give back to the community and also meet people that are like-minded at the same time. I say it is the perfect time to plug into something you're passionate about and fulfilled. It also helps take a little bit of that pressure. We talked about the mindset earlier of how hard this market is to give back and make yourself feel a little bit grounded and really give back to other people. And sometimes you see circumstances that you're like, I'm grateful for my own set of circumstances, right? So getting out and volunteering, I also think you meet like-minded people, and there's so many professionals that are volunteering, right? There's so many people in HR and recruiting and managers, HR hiring managers who are in volunteering arenas that you want to get engaged with. So it's a great way to do something you love to do and cut through kind of some of the superficial layers, but also network professionally as well. It's really dual and multifaceted. And again, it's about being in the right time, or being in the right place at the right time, I think, is really important. Continuing to get out. I see a lot of people tend to pull back and get very isolated when they're job searching. And I'm telling you, do opposite of that. Get out in the community, double what you were doing before. So Really, really important. Robin, if you don't mind going to the next slide, and if you have any questions so far, feel free to stop me.
I just want to give you a big amen to all that with the networking. That is the message that I'm preaching day in, day out at Tech Moms, especially like for everybody, it's critically important. But for the people with the real linear pathway and the career and their,
Yeah.
logical sense and all these other things, then maybe it's not as critical for them. But for those of us at Tech Moms, all of us are making a career transition, whether it's a workforce reentry, whether it's a major industry pivot or a role pivot or whatever. Networking is even more essential for us than it is for everybody else. And it's super important for everyone. So I love that
Yeah.
you're really hitting that hard. It's so critical.
Thanks, Robin. And going back and I want to give a plug to the Boulder Way Forward really fast with regards to volunteering, because there's so much good activity going on at the Boulder Way Forward, and there's so many spokes, right? There's something for everybody to get engaged with. And I think if I'm looking for a job, part of that is getting involved in my community to better the communities we call home and that we live in. But also the same time, you're meeting people who are in these environments that you want to be in professionally. And so it's really multifaceted, that you can go and give back and be of service to other people and contribute to better outcomes for our community. But at the same time, you're meeting people. I've met so many people inside of the ecosystem of the Boulder Way Forward. I thought I knew a lot of people until I got involved with the Boulder Way Forward. And I'm like, holy cow, there's so many people here that I've never even crossed paths with before. So I would just say get involved in whatever lights your fire and brings you joy and what keeps you grounded. I know times in my life where I've gone through a lot of circumstance or a lot of hardship. Volunteering and giving back can give me some grounding and some peace outside of being caught up in all of the emotional complexity that comes with a big job search, which is stressful, can be stressful in any market. This one just happens to be like times 5 or 10 stress.
Love
So,
that.
okay, well, we'll go on. So I like to tell candidates, it's really important to track and manage your time. So you're planning your day. You're saying, I'm going to work on submitting resumes for 2 hours. I'm going to work on LinkedIn for an hour. I'm going to take a walk. But then while you're submitting those resumes, I want you to think about tracking that. So I have a sales forward way of thinking. Everything we do, we track and manage, because we think about, are the activities we're doing getting the outcome that we're looking for? If I am applying to a job every single day and I have a beautiful spreadsheet built that says I applied to 50 jobs and I have an X in interview on all 50 jobs, I'm not going to keep doing what I've been doing and seeing the same result. And one of my favorite quotes is, if you do the same thing you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. I think this is really important when you're tracking your activities for a job search, that you have got to track the activity for a couple of reasons. When we get into job tools, I'm going to give you some tactical applications that you can apply that may be a little different than just, that will be a little different from just applying to a position online. It's going to be a little bit more customized. You want to track that to see if you have a better outcome. If you don't, then don't keep doing it. If you're going to all the networking events and it's not paying an ROI, I would question then, am I engaging with people? Do I have an agenda for my networking? Am I going to meet specific people? Do I know who's going to be there? Am I going to the right events? These are questions you have to ask yourself. Am I going to be in the right place with the right people? So tracking and managing your activity, I think, is really imperative. And again, if you're applying and you have a spreadsheet with 400 jobs that you've applied to and it's not landing anything, you've got to pivot and you've got to have more fluidity in your activity. So something just another layer of of trackability, but making sure that you're doing the right activities that are gonna get you a job ultimately is the goal. Robin, if you don't mind going to the next slide.
Can I ask you a quick question on this one?
Sure.
It's kind of like conventional wisdom that I've always thought and heard is looking at the area of your job search where you're getting stuck. And maybe you're going to be talking about this in a minute, but if you're not getting to any interviews, then you've either got a problem with your resume or you're applying to the wrong types of jobs, right? So if you're not getting to the interview stage, you've really got to focus on those first two steps. If you're
Yeah.
getting interviews but not getting second interviews, then you've got to work on your interview skills. Is that kind of the way that you see it as well? Does that conventional wisdom still hold true?
Yes, and I would say in a year ago, that would be very applicable in this market. I know a lot of people who are very skilled and very well suited for a job who are still not getting the calls back, unfortunately, because of the overwhelm of the system,
Yeah.
right? And it really depends on the industry you're in and the role you're in. If you're in tech, right now, tech is tough. It's tougher than if you're in aerospace and defense, you're good. If you're in medical manufacturing and healthcare, in construction, skill trade, you don't have a problem. Those jobs are continuing to grow. However, we've seen a lot of tech companies who overhired. Now they're right sizing, they're scaling back, they're various reasons for pausing recruiting efforts, or they're actively hiring and they're using a recruiting firm. For example, you maybe wouldn't see that posting. There's a lot of variables happening in the market, but I think it's industry specific that the market is oversaturated. And so, yes, to answer your question, yes, you do want to apply for relevancy in jobs. We always tell women apply for the jobs even if you don't have the skill set, right? At capacity at 100%, maybe at 70%. But unfortunately, that is not the hiring outcome right now. Because there's so many people you can hire to 100% capacity of skill, they're hiring the 100%, not the 70. So yes, still apply for the jobs, but how you apply, I think, matters more. And we're going to talk about that next.
Love it.
So to the next slide, let's talk about LinkedIn. So again, we talked about us applying for jobs, linear. This is one channel that we're applying for jobs, and that is great. When we apply, we're going to talk about it on the next slide, but we are going to apply differently, and we're going to do some different activities to give some color and texture. But I first want to talk about LinkedIn, why this is important. This is another avenue and another source, but for recruiters to come to you having to be outward and applying for the jobs. Recruiters live, eat, breathe, and sleep on LinkedIn. That is their platform of choice. They are on LinkedIn doing keyword searches all day, every day for clients that pay us to find candidates. And this is really geared towards mid and high level positions, not always entry level, which we'll talk a little bit more about that too. I think they all should be treated the same. Even if you're entry level, you should have a LinkedIn. And your LinkedIn is really your digital resume. It should read just like your actual resume. However, it should have more color and texture about who you are, what your interests are. You should have endorsements on here, which are basically the new endorsements and recommendations are basically the new references. I go on LinkedIn when I am looking at a candidate and I say, oh my gosh, I can see so many soft skills of the people who have taken the time to write an endorsement. I can see, or a recommendation, excuse me. I can see they have team building, they're collaborative. I can see a lot of the soft skills built into these narratives and these recommendations that can be advantageous for our clients. When I do an intake call for a client who has a new position, they give us a lot of hard skill and they give us soft skill requirements. Cultural fit, career pathing, they give us communication styles, what's next for them in this path. And we try to put all those pieces together. Sometimes on LinkedIn, you can find some of those pieces, those core pieces that make sense to engage you. But the point is LinkedIn should be extremely updated. It should be active. It should, if you're not writing your own content, that's not a problem, but liking content, participating in content, endorsements, we already talked about, recommendations, critical. And I like to tell people, get recommendations as maintenance, job maintenance, not job search tools.
Mm-hmm.
A recommendation, Robin, if you and I work together, let's say we work together on a project in the Boulder Way Forward and we had this great outcome, I would want to write you as gratitude a recommendation on LinkedIn that's permanent, set in stone, and it really showcases in the moment, in real time, our interaction together, how you made an impact, how you worked cross-functionally, how you collaborated, how we worked well together. And that timestamp is on there forever. So instead of, remember the days where we'd have to call like, Bill and Sherry from 1982 and be like, hey, you guys, I know I haven't talked to you for like 15 years, but can you give me a reference? Can I put your number on there? And that's obviously exaggerating, but that's what we did, is like we would call and say, can we get you to recommend us? And we haven't talked to them. It's always awkward asking somebody to do something and you have had this gap in communication for a long time. This ensures that you get a recommendation, but there's not a weird gap. I can just go look as a recruiter and see that you have a lot of recommendations, that people speak really highly of you, or they really are, they think you do a really good job, or you're really driven and motivated in this area, or your skill set is abundant and really rich in this area. It tells a lot about a human. So LinkedIn is really important. We don't talk enough about it.
So what are your best practices, your recommendations for asking for recommendation? Like when you're reaching out to someone, if you're just putting together your LinkedIn or you haven't been on it for a while, you
Yeah,
don't have a lot of recommendations.
yeah.
How do I get some?
The best recommendation I have for that, Robin, is giving somebody a recommendation first.
Okay.
That's it. I say, I used to have this practice every week that I would sit down and write a letter of gratitude to people somebody who's impacted me or made a difference, so that I stay in gratitude. And I've transitioned that because time, you get doing life and all the things that it's hard to write a handwritten letter. I still do them, just not as frequently. But I say find a person or two who's inspired and impacted you each week and write them a letter or write them a recommendation on LinkedIn. 9 times out of 10, they'll give you a recommendation back. If they don't, they don't. I don't ask for them. I just write them for other people, and then other people reciprocate that.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't realize that was a great way to do it. People sometimes ask me for recommendations and I'm always happy to write them. But
Yeah,
just like I do for a letter of recommendation, like if
yeah,
I'm doing someone for college or something like that, I always ask the people to tell me a few things that they'd love me to focus on. Like, what do you see as your strengths and whatever. And I know it can feel awkward to like reach out and like, Misty, will you write me a recommendation? Do you say I'm this and this and this, right? So that can feel awkward, but I know as a writer, I appreciate having that information.
yeah,
So what I kind of have told people, I'm like, if you are going to ask someone, and I love your advice to say just go write them and then watch them come back in. But if you do feel like
yeah,
there's someone, oh, I'd really love them to write me one, maybe just say like, if you're looking for any ideas of what I'm trying to focus on in my career right now, I'd love to give you some
yeah.
ideas of my strengths. But whatever you want to write would be amazing. I'd be so grateful. So not like telling them exactly what to do, but letting them know you're happy to share those ideas with them. That's how I've kind of
Yeah.
done it in different settings. So hopefully that would also work in LinkedIn. But I love your idea of writing a couple recommendations every week. That's a fantastic Sunday morning activity.
Yeah, I love your idea too. And if you do have to get into a place where I don't think there's anything wrong with even saying, to writing somebody on LinkedIn and just saying, hey, I'm trying to build my network up and my LinkedIn up to be more rich and abundant. I'm curious if you wouldn't mind writing something for me. But I think just like networking, I always try to give before I get.
Yeah.
I never want to ask somebody for something without being of value or adding value to a relationship first. And LinkedIn's no different for me. I just think if I give somebody a LinkedIn recommendation, they naturally always write back, but not, I can't say always, because sometimes I've written a recommendation and haven't gotten something back, which is okay too. I don't do it for necessarily me, but I do think it's always good to give first and then get. So LinkedIn really truly is recruiters. You want to be attractive to recruiters, and that is also done through keyword searchability, right? They're using the same tools in that applicant tracking system that they are on LinkedIn. It's really like keyword searchability. It's how many keywords you have. So making your LinkedIn as abundant and rich as your job tools are, and making sure your dates are accurate, right? Like your dates should be very cohesive in your resume and on LinkedIn. Those are both important. Spelling, all of those things are equally as important. It's really your digital resume. I've had a best practice of interviewing twice a year for the last, I don't know, 15 years. I interview twice a year as a best practice to stay relevant, to stay engaged. I want to hear the questions that recruiters are asking. I also want to benchmark myself and see, like, are there opportunities I'm missing out there? Right? I do it for a variety of reasons. And I also like to, I'm in sales. Again, I have my sales hat on. I like to know what our competition's doing, what their differentiators are, so you stay, up to date on trends. And LinkedIn is the last probably 5 or 6 years, I have a current updated resume, but I have not used my resume in 6 or 7 years. Every recruiter that's reached out to me has pulled my LinkedIn, which is relevant as my resume. So
So
yeah.
when you're doing those interviews twice a year, are you
Mhm.
seeking them out or are you waiting till people come to you?
Oh, they always come to me.
Oh yeah. That's because you're in such hot demand because you're so
I think
fantastic.
it sells. Everybody needs a salesperson. I
Yeah.
don't know how, I don't know. I mean, every organization needs a salesperson. So I don't know, but I think it is a great way to get a pulse. And
Yeah.
you want people on LinkedIn to come to you before you have to go job seek. That's like this fluidity. And normally and traditionally, we've gone through, like, I'm just going to apply for a job and this is what I do. I'm going to apply and I'm going to get, interviews, and that's just not the way it's working. So we really have to think a little bit more expansive, untraditional, make sure it's not I'm doing LinkedIn and not doing, applying online. It's really LinkedIn and applying online, and LinkedIn and making sure my tools are updated, and networking. It's an ecosystem that all need to be working pretty harmoniously right now to tap into the right opportunity. So let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, let's talk about leveraging agency partnerships. I'm going to tell you a story that, a long time ago, I found myself laid off in a pretty dipped economy. The economy started going south. I was in my career favorite job that I've ever done. I traveled all over. It was really exciting, and I got laid off. And it was a tough time. It was a rough week. I mean, maybe a couple of years, let's be honest. But I had a friend. I was going to go back to school and increase my skill set through education, higher education. I had a friend who said, I have somebody who owns a staffing agency. You should go to them and see if you can figure out something part-time. And I said, absolutely not. Like, I'm not going to go work at a staffing agency or for a staffing agency. I had this really negative stigmatism. I thought I'm going to go do laundry, like I don't know what I thought. I just thought it was like I'd hit rock bottom. Let's be honest. So fast forward, I ended up going to that agency, and I said, I want to go back to school and I want to find a part-time job. Is that something you can help me with? And they reviewed my resume and said, you would be so great in sales in this industry. Would you be open to doing business development for us? And I was like, well, tell me more. I'm curious. And I ended up working for that agency. It was my very first footprint into the agency world, the workforce development world, and I ended up working for there. And I can't tell you how many jobs we have. So let me take a step back. So agency support can be at entry level, yes, but it can also be mid and high level. So there's two sides to agencies. One is professional headhunting, it's been called for years, professional recruitment services. And then there's entry level services, which are more of your light industrial call center. It's, entry level pathways into jobs. Not all agencies are created equal, and not all agencies support every single vertical, right? Like some agencies support aerospace and defense, life sciences, some are general staffing, some do manufacturing, and that's what they're good at. But the point is when you work with agencies, first of all, it's free. There's zero cost to the candidate, which is mind-blowing. We get a lot of jobs that are mid and high level. At Spherion, we recruit everything from C-suite executives to marketing and sales, and we've recruited every position in every vertical except for non-medical. So anything not doctors and lawyers, right? So putting your resume in with agencies, all it does is gives them the opportunity to connect with you if they have a job for their client that is going to be potentially a good fit for you. So their job as a recruiter is to find a match for the client and the candidate and pair them together as like a matchmaker. And they take a lot of factors into consideration in terms of hard skill, soft skill, career path, all the things that I mentioned earlier, communication style. There may be gaps in a team that they need to fill, and they're going to find that person. And some of those postings are done through network. They're not posted traditionally online. So when you don't have your resume in with a agency or multiple agencies, I say apply for as many agencies as you can, locally and nationally, because all it does is expand and cast a wider net for agencies to be able to have access to your resume to find if they have a job come through, and let's say it's a marketing position and you're the perfect fit, your resume is going to be able to come up and surface that they can then plug you into that opportunity. So agencies are absolutely not leveraged the way that they should be leveraged. They're free of cost, and anything to help expand your search is a gift right now. So I am a huge, obviously a bias advocate and champion for the agency world, but I would say again, not all agencies are created equal. There are some agencies that will take on clients that I don't think are the best, career path for people, but they still plug them in. Do your research, do your due diligence, understand and look at their work, their rating on Google. You have access to so many tools, but make sure that you are applying with national and local agencies. If you're mid and high level, I say apply with nationals, because a lot of times agencies will fill jobs in Utah that will be remote, and that will open you up a little bit wider in the search. But if you're here locally and you don't want to like relocate, if you are, entry level, leverage agencies to help plug you in. And if you find a good agency, and we take a lot of pride at Spherion with our compatibility in partnerships, we have to make sure that they are really playing at a high level to be a partner for us. We take a lot of pride in that because we want to place people that with opportunities that are long-term fit. They're temp to perm on the entry level sometimes, and then they're all professional. You work for the actual company in mid and high level.
So if this is an underutilized resource, it sounds like a lot of people don't know how to do this, right? If they're not doing it already. So how do we identify great agencies that we should be applying to? Like, what are the actual steps for getting ourselves listed and noticed by agencies?
Yeah, that's a great question, Robin. I think looking at Google scores and ratings online and experiences is really helpful. A lot of word of mouth. Like when I do this content for individuals that are, needing some support in career pathing, I'm happy to share who I think are great personally. And I always say, apply with 5 to 10 agencies. Whoever places you, I don't care. I just want you to find a great job. Our economy is better when women are working and when humans are working in our state. So, and we all have different jobs and different times. Even if we compete, right, with each other, we have different roles at different times. So finding your best rated local agencies and your best rated national agencies, but based on your vertical and your role, are going to be critical. So it's a little bit tactical in how what agencies in a Google search is what agencies are recruiting in IT, right? And there's sometimes agencies just recruit IT. And then there's some agencies who recruit IT as well as full service, aerospace and defense, life sciences, manufacturing, all the other verticals. And applying with all of them doesn't hurt. It's free. And it's the same application process as it would be for a posting online. It's the same thing. You get in their applicant tracking tool by a post online. So, or you can go directly to the website of the staffing agency, like www.spherion.com, and post your resume there, or our parent company, www.ronstat.com. So, and then there's, of course, so many competitors in this space, right? It's pretty saturated for a reason, because most companies leverage agencies to support them on some level. Almost all of them do, which most people don't know.
Yeah.
So it's a great pathway and something that I'm forever grateful that I ended up going into that staffing agency, because here we are 15 years later, I'm still working for an agency and I understand it better. And we don't do any laundry positions, just so everybody knows.
I love it.
Yeah, so if we just want to go to the next slide, we're going to take how much time do we have left? About 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, so job search tools, this is critical. And this is, I think, the meat and potatoes, I think, of the job search. Posting or applying to a job traditionally is not effective anymore. We know this. We've the last year has proven, really maybe 15 to 18 months has proven that's not the thing anymore. We talked about networking and we talked about, LinkedIn and getting people to come to you and working with agencies. But if you are going to apply online, which I do think you should continue to do, you got to make it punchier, I guess I'll say. I don't even know where that word came from. I just created it. But punchier, it's got to be impactful. It's got to be bolder, and it's got to be customized. It's got to be modified to speak the language of the industry, modified to speak the language of the company. Sometimes companies' language is different in industry even, right? You have two companies that are the same type of companies, but they speak a different language, which means the keyword searchability is going to be different. So modifying your your resume, having a master resume, and then modifying that before you apply for the job. But then what I want people to do, and what I have been telling people, and this has been effective, is find somebody on LinkedIn, an HR recruiting, a hiring manager. If there's a name on the posting, right? Like reach out to so-and-so or so-and-so's hiring, or like the tools we have access to on LinkedIn. You can find somebody in an HR recruitment team or sometimes a hiring manager for that department. If it's IT, you'd be an IT director, right? Or an IT, somebody director level and above would usually be interviewing for that position. And what I want you to do is write them a quick LinkedIn message that says, hey, Robin, I just applied for XYZ position. I'm really interested and I think I could be potentially a good fit. I wanted to make sure that, I'm sure you're getting overwhelmed by applicants, and I just wanted to make sure I connected with you directly. And what it would do for me as a hiring manager is I would say, oh my gosh, like that person went above and beyond, took the time out of their day to find, I don't care if it's an accurate person or not. Like it doesn't have to be the right person. It has to be somebody who has a decision in the hiring process, whether that's HR, whether that is a recruitment manager, a hiring manager, director level and above in a department, then I think it would make me go, oh my gosh, that is such a great, like above and beyond thing to do, that I'm going to go find their resume. Like I want those people on my team who are willing to go just a little bit extra mile. And also they think they're great for the job. I'm curious, like, are they great for the job? So customization, you're tracking it, remember, on your trackable tools. Then what I want you to do is follow up a week later. Hey, maybe you're not the right person that I should be connecting with. Is there somebody that you can direct me to? And you can do this, within a couple of days to a week late at the latest. But I want you to customize your job, your resume. I want you to reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, and then I want you to follow up with that person within the week. And I think that helps increase the ROIs and the outcomes of, yeah, we'd love to bring you in and have an interview.
Can I ask you a question about
Yeah.
this stage with the customization, especially? You were saying at the beginning, those first 200 resumes, you're going to find your candidates. So 201 after that, they're out of luck, right? And I see this all the time with my tech moms. They'll come to me because we share jobs on our jobs channel all the time within Slack. And so
Yeah.
I'm sharing stuff, and someone will come to me a week and a half later or 2 weeks later and go, "Oh, I just saw this job. I really want to apply." And I was like, "Oh, honey, you have missed the boat," right? Like that
Right.
listing is 2 weeks old, right? And
Yeah.
I see that all the time. So I'm like, have your resume ready to go, be ready to move with speed, but then you also want to move with customization. And so
Yeah.
I'd love your thoughts about kind of optimizing the balance between
Mhm.
moving it quickly, but making it just right.
Quality over quantity. And Robin, I'm really glad that you said that because something I would have missed and didn't think about, but I should have put on here is that if you are looking at a specific company or a specific title, make sure you have your Google settings that it will notify you if a new job becomes available in that space, because it is about promptness. It is about timing, and it is about quality. And if you can combine those two and you can get in there quickly and apply and you can get quality in your application, I do think that it increases your odds to be considered and looked at.
I love that. So
Yeah.
on a related note, one of the things that we can do to move more quickly and still make it customized is using AI and leveraging AI tools. And we talk a lot about AI. Everybody's using it at Tech Moms, but I know there's also been, some pushback to say if we get a cover letter or a resume that's been created by AI, it's going to look like everybody else's that use ChatGPT to write their cover letter, right? And
Yeah.
so how would you recommend that we use AI to be more efficient, productive, have a better speed to our applications, but still coming out individual and not making it like our resumes look like everybody else's?
Yeah, because there's this like fine line of, I know when I see something, I use AI every single day to like enhance or modify or polish my emails, my communication, which I'm really grateful for. But like there's this like these dashes that you just know kind of it was like created by AI, and you think like, is this authentic? Is this genuine? Is this original content? I do think there's an opportunity to use AI custom or tools to say like, here's the application, or here's the job requirements, and here's my resume. Can you put keywords, searchability into my resume based off this job description? I think that's a fairly simple tool to use
Mhm.
that helps you customize that resume. And you have to make sure to look at it and make sure that it makes sense, because I've seen a lot of resumes come through that, and then I meet the people and I'm like, this is definitely not you. So I do think there's like a balance of being original, authentic, honest, and not I guess I wouldn't say honest, but like original. But then there's also like, you want to get your keyword searchability boosted and like get to be able to play in that. I think the easiest way to do is compare that and say, here's my resume, here's the job description. I need keyword searchability in there. Another way, a cover letter is really easy to modify. I just say create your own original content and then enhance it for the job description using AI as just a little modification. I think it makes you more efficient and effective. And also it does pick up the keyword searchability better. So use
I
it.
love that. And then at the end, I loved what you also said, check it over when you're done, right?
Yeah.
Like you are the final author of
Yeah.
everything that you create. It can't be AI. So you go through and go, yep, that actually is me.
Yeah.
Those are my key skills. I would say that way. Now I'm good to go. Instead of just saying, okay, ran it through ChatGPT and I'm going to send it off. Like always take a final look.
Yeah, I agree. And then, when you get to the interview phases, right? Like work with somebody, that could be a whole other like topic is, the interview process is making sure, you're prepared for that. But after the interview, I always say, send a thank you. There's a lot of ways to send a thank you card to people digitally. You could write a LinkedIn message, an email if you got their message, but I do think it stands out. It's still like old school, but I think people genuinely appreciate that little gesture of thanking somebody for their time, and being in gratitude, and writing recommendations. You guys, like, write recommendations for people that you've worked with, worked for, that have worked above you, below you, reported to, all the things. That those are great job search tools, and not something that we didn't spend any time on, but I do think has been helpful for a lot of people. I haven't experienced it personally, so I don't feel like I can really speak to it, is like connecting with people on LinkedIn, like connecting with people that you don't know on LinkedIn. And, you see somebody posting a job, you see like 150, comments in there, but writing them maybe a customization letter in their chat, just saying, I saw your posting. I'm sure you're overwhelmed with applicants, but here's my resume in case, a lot of people apply for jobs that they're not necessarily qualified. So those 1,500 applicants or 500 applicants, you're going to go through, if you went through all of them, you would find like 5 for 100.
Yeah.
Like the ratio is not, it's not, this will give you an example. We just did a large, a client called and ordered 25 people. And they just did, they got 300 applicants for this was in like a day. They got 300 applicants for that posting. I think they interviewed 200 or 100 of them. And then I think got cleared background. I mean, it keeps getting smaller and smaller for 17 people. We were supposed to fill 25. We ended up filling 17, but they went through 300 applicants to get 17 candidates. And that's very entry level. So it tells you the process of just, it's a process. And then last slide, friendly reminder, use your support system. One thing about those recommendations, you guys, that have come in handy and something I didn't expect is on hard days, like we all have them on hard days where you're like, I don't believe in myself, or I'm failing, or the world's working against me, or I just feel bad. I go and sometimes read those recommendations people have written for me, and I feel so much gratitude, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. I've got this. It fills my cup up a little bit. But I just want to remind you all to use your support system, whatever that looks like. And when you're planning in your time management, build a support system. Who are your safe people you can go to and say, like, Robin, I'm having a really hard day. I feel really discouraged today. I worry about people. I worry about their working is our livelihoods. It's how we take care of our families. None of us work because we're just like, I love working so much. Like, it's so fun. Like, we love what we do and we should be fulfilled, but also we work for financial compensation. And so when that is compromised, we tend to get in emotional places that can become challenging. And so I just encourage everybody to build out a support system for yourself. And you can't take the market personally. You really, like, rule number one, you cannot take it personally because it's challenging. So I am encouraging everybody to, expand and cast a wider net and really try adding some of these new tools into your ecosystem, and hopefully the revenue and the ROI will pay off.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So just to recap, mindset matters. Build a blueprint with flexibility, manage your time, use it wisely, network, stay focused, have a support network built, job tools, quality over quantity, build effective and word searchable tools for every application, LinkedIn, to communicate with hiring leaders, follow-ups and thank you cards, cast a wider net, engage with local and national agencies to support your search, and hopefully the outcome will be different than, just applying, but it gives you a little bit more tools in your tool belt, hopefully.
I love that. That was so helpful. I learned a lot of new things today, and this is what I do too, not in the same way that you do it at all, but I'm like in the job search mode all the time as I'm helping all my tech moms look for new jobs. And so this was super helpful to learn some different strategies, to learn about working with agencies. And I loved your perspective. I mean, one of the things we try to encourage women right now, the industry is super tough. I mean, especially the tech industry. The other thing that I wanted to emphasize is that we are really steering our women to look for roles in all industries. Like, don't limit yourself to say, oh, I just want to work at a tech company, because there really are tech jobs in every company and all those industries that you mentioned that are stronger right now, right? And don't have the volatility. And so I want to remind everybody, there's lots of great ways to be looking, but also to not take it personally and to rely on that. Your own support network is so critical. I've got a lot of people who are close to me who've been looking for a job for a while, and it is really, really tough. And I'm just like, hang in there. People are still finding jobs. We are finding people. I mean,
There
our tech
are.
moms are getting jobs.
Good.
So
Glad
there's
to hear
still
that.
movement. Good things are happening, but it is tough and you've got to be super committed. So I
Yeah.
loved your ideas to make a plan every day, follow your plan, do the work, and eventually things are going to come through for you.
Yeah, I believe that. And then if you have to, reach out to an agency or, replug back in a strategy, like what am I not doing? Can you see an angle that is I'm not doing well, or look at my job tools? I look at job tools every single day and I'm like, I can't believe people are actually sometimes putting this content out there.
Yeah.
So having some sort of a network that you can run that by people, I mean, there's a lot of tools that I think you can use AI to enhance, right? Like have them built, but make sure that your resume is readable. It doesn't have a weird, crazy font. When I see a weird, crazy font, I check out immediately. I don't know why. And every recruiter, you could ask 100 recruiters like what they like, and it's all subjective. But I think for the most part, people like generally just a really simple font, a really clean format, right? And bullet pointed. Your resume is supposed to be bullet pointed. It's not supposed to be, I say use your LinkedIn to have more color and texture, but you can expand on that. But your LinkedIn really, or I mean, your resume should be really simple and really clean and concise about your hard and soft skill,
Mhm.
right? Volunteer efforts and education. It's really the qualifications to get you to that job. The LinkedIn tells a little bit more of a colorful story about, who you are and what you're, is this going to be a cultural fit for the company, right? Like, are you going to fit culturally? Are there gaps inside of that company that you could help fill for them? Like, some of those colorful, I guess, nuances to find the right person can be found obviously sometimes through LinkedIn as well.
I love it.
So
Well, thank
important.
you so much. Yeah, this has been great. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to warn you, you're going to get a lot of LinkedIn requests from our tech moms who will reach out and connect with you after watching this video.
I'm
So
so
be on the lookout
excited.
for
Yes.
that. Yeah, they will be looking to expand their network with a wonderful recruiting professional like you. So Misty, thank you so much for your conversation today and for all your help. And everybody, we appreciate you joining us for this Better Way Thursday, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Robin.